Hey folks, Dan Kryzanowski. Great to be here with you all today from beautiful Austin, Texas.
Are you a busy professional looking to diversify your portfolio? Ever wanted to passively invest in real estate but don't know where to start? John Fortes provides you with a guide to passively invest in real estate. This is the Passive Investor Show.
And now, the Passive Investor Show. Here's your host, John Fortes.
Hello, PI listeners. Thank you for lending me your time today. Welcome to the Passive Investor Show. I'm John Fortes. Our goal is to provide you, the busy professional, with passive investing tips and tricks for your real estate investments to leverage more time for you to focus on your true passions. Let's get to work. Today's guest is Dan Kryzanowski.
Yes, we got it, baby.
My man, yes. Thank you. It's like Coach K in the basketball world.
He's my uncle. I'm telling you.
I appreciate you. Dan Kryzanowski is an active real estate investor and fundraiser, leveraging self-directed accounts and solo Ks to create a diversified real estate portfolio yielding double-digit returns. He specializes in self-storage investments, multifamily and hard money residential property loans. Dan has personally raised millions of dollars from family offices and individuals, and empowered his partners to raise seven figures on multiple occasions. Dan serves as executive vice president at Rocket Dollar, unlocking the $10 trillion pool of untapped retirement assets for the real estate community. He is also a capital partner for Pinnacle Storage Properties and corporate board president for Hugh O'Brien, Youth Central Texas. Dan, a Wharton graduate, previously led commercial real estate initiatives for GE Capital in Mexico and South America. Wow, Dan, that is a mouthful. I want to say, first of all, hello, Dan. I'm grateful to have you on the show. Tell me more about your background and how you got into it.
Sure, John. So first, great to be here with an audience from the Northeast. You know, I grew up in Scranton, PA, and I'm pretty apolitical, but for both sides of the aisle, you know, my claim to fame is that I played on Joe Biden's Little League field and then road crew with Trump's son. And, you know, in the middle, had an undefeated state basketball team when I was in 8th grade. So I like to say I'm one level away from beating Kobe Bryant one-on-one. So, well, I hope Kobe is listening, but not for that reason today. But I know it's been great. I've had a great run, and thank you for the kind introduction. You know, like many folks here, probably started in a big company. You know, after a wonderful summer at Martha's Vineyard and some time in Spain, I came back to Merrill Lynch. Half joke, if I did what I did on the debt side, I would have caused a financial crisis. Probably be retired now, but, you know, either way, I finally got to this passive investing. And, you know, got a little tired of the snow, moved out to Arizona, did my master's between there and Mexico. I was with GE Capital. I know GE, of course, based in Boston now, and just had a really great experience, primarily with their capital and real estate side. But, you know, whether it was the one winter too many or just having a little crystal ball, saw that the future is kind of moving towards Austin, moving towards alternative investment and not kind of the typical, hey, let me put on some khaki pants, go to the same office 40 years, hope my 401k does well and retire. So, you know, for the past decade, it's been more of, you know, put away the khakis and wear fancy T-shirts and, you know, really kind of take control back of my time in retirement.
Let's talk about those T-shirts, Rocket Dollar T-shirt. And you gave me one to run around Boston, right? So I'm grateful for that. So Dan, we met at Michael Blanc's Dealmaker Live 2019, this past July. And we had a conversation about Rocket Dollar, and it mainly focused on my issues with self-directed IRAs. And your product, what you offered, really helped streamline, because I'm a tech guy, right? What I want efficiency, I want easy, and I want done quick.
Yes.
Less paperwork, right? So I don't need to fill out, like, print out these documents, scan them, send it back. It's kind of like an extra step. Can you walk me through how you guys walk investors through that process?
Sure, for sure. And, I know a lot of savvy folks on the call. Just a super quick background for anybody new to the space. These types of accounts, SDIRA, self-directed IRAs, have been around since the 70s. And on top of that, a solo 401k for any of our self-employed folks, probably some realtors on the call, you can actually contribute up to $56,000 a year. These still have about 2 decades, since they were launched in the early 2000s.
Can you just explain the differences between the both?
Absolutely. So, the SDIRA, any American qualifies for, you can contribute $6,000 a year. A lot of folks, a typical career path is, you work somewhere, you go to another job. These 401ks become IRAs, call it a traditional IRA. And then if somebody wants to move from, say, their Fidelity mutual fund to, maybe one of your deals or private real estate, they need a self-directed IRA, which is a specific type of account, which basically you keep the same tax benefits, everything else. You can't pull the money out without penalty, until you're in your 60s and such. But otherwise, it's a good account. The solo 401k is a little bit different in 2 ways. One, you need to be self-employed, but because of that, much higher contributions to the tune of 10 times the amount of an IRA. So if you're over 50 years old, it's actually $62,000. And if it's, say, a husband-wife team without W-2 employees, you're up to, $120,000. It's a huge from a contribution. And likewise, it has a loan feature where you can borrow $50,000 as long as you pay it back over 5 years. So an extremely attractive product for anybody that's self-employed or may have a side gig. So, as we see it also, a final benefit of that is the checkbook control. So I know some of the friction that folks have heard, possibly that have been in this space, has been, where's my money? Why am I filling out paperwork? What is this for? And a lot of these folks, I'd say the legacy players in the space are very upfront that, hey, this is my model. Some even snicker a little bit. This is kind of how we're going to charge you. We said, let's pull back the curtain from the Wizard of Oz. So whether you're in the solo 401k or the SDIRA, we are going to give you a checkbook control self-directed IRA. And this is going to save not only you, but assuming you're just writing a check to your buddy for his or her next project, it's going to save each of you an hour probably in administrative work just from moving the money from A to B.
That is so true, because I know how painful it is, where I personally went through the process and I ended up closing it out. Yeah. Like I ended up taking the tax hit. And the reason why was the pushback for me to go and create the checkbook account. It was just an extra step where I needed to access it. And the fact that you guys streamlined that process is, I wish I knew about the product beforehand, and it would have been easier for me to do that. Mm-hmm. So another thing I wanted to talk about is how does this save on taxes? Because one can get hit with UBIT and one can't, right? Because if they're investing in one of my opportunities, mm-hmm. I'm leveraging debt. And how does that affect a passive investor?
Yeah, we hear this a lot. Just to preface, I mean, the solo 401k, for multiple instances, the UBIT may not be a consideration. Secondly, there's a lot of exceptions based on how a deal or where somebody is going is structured. And third, it is based off of a certain income level. So kind of with those considerations, at least for me personally, it has not been a factor in the decade that I've been doing passive investing. Secondly, I think you have to look at it as 2 pools of money. So you have your piggy bank checking account that you want to maximize, or you choose to use so much for investment. And then separately, it's your retirement. So, a lot of folks here from the Northeast assume everybody has their money with Fidelity. If you're making 2% of Fidelity mutual fund and your real estate, you're going to get between, call it 9.5 and 10, even if there is some small, UBIT in there.
Let's just say it's a bad deal, 8%.
8% still 4 times 2% in my mind. So that's where you can start leveraging your account. And the nice thing too is with these checkbook control, you can do it in smaller tranches, and it's just as simple as writing a check.
That's pretty cool. So how can this benefit passive investors?
Yeah, I think, there's 2 ways. One, as I said, it's, it could be the second tranche. If you're already, for example, one of my, a good friend now, of course, but trusted colleague for years, every one of his deals, he flips houses, says, Dan, do you want to put in an extra 5, 10, 15, or do you want to be the lead with 100, say, in this deal? And a lot of times, I might have a piece and it might only be in my retirement. I might want to keep this cash for my piggy bank checking. So it's pretty powerful from that perspective. A second thing, and I know we talked a little bit of this at a Michael Blanc's show, I call it, what I love in multifamily is the A share and the B share. And what I mean by that, the A share is paying, whether it's the 8%, 10%, and then the B is where you get a portion of the IRR on the back end. So it's comforting, of course, knowing you're backed by an asset, but also getting dividends on day one, but then chance for, some pretty significant gains on the backside.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to get the upside on the deal on the back end. So that's where it's really powerful and drives that, account to your wealth, build your wealth, basically. So Dan, I'm a new passive investor. Walk me through. I just reached out to you. Yes. How does that process work? And how long from the day I commit does it take for me to open and close my other account and open one with you?
That sounds great. Yeah. So let's just use a simple calendar. Just say we're on September 1st here. And let's talk about the SDIRA. The solo 401k is actually even more streamlined. But with us right now, as I said, to learn, I feel like I'll have to promote the Red Sox also on this and HubSpot and everything else, but, all of Boston here. But, HubSpot actually, our knowledge base, which is a fancy word for FAQ, voted us one of the top in the world. And they kind of show this. And so point being here, some folks, even if you're listening now at 3 a.m, you can go to rocketdollar.com, our FAQ, and probably self-educate within a few minutes on everything we can talk about ad nauseum here. And that can be done in a few minutes. From the sign up, same deal, 24/7, 5 minutes to sign up online, personal information, driver's license, credit card, and we do credit cards so we're not eating into your balance, for example. From here, you're e-signing a few documents. Likewise, we have patent pending technology and other things to help move money over, say, from your Fidelity or elsewhere. And the biggest thing is we never touch your money. It sits with one of our partner banks or an FDIC insured bank, so you have full access to your money. For folks unfamiliar, the best analogy I can give is a health savings account. Use it, you need surgery, great. You get a manicure, pedicure, you're below board. Same deal here. The IRS says no life insurance, no collectibles. And the big one is no self-dealing, not yourself or your linear family. So you couldn't buy a flat and have your kids stay in or invest in your parents' startup or your own or spouses. Everything else is in play. So a very long answer is that, once again, more things you can learn in our knowledge base. But from the sign up, it's 5 minutes. It's e-signing a few things. Within a few days, we have what we need at our end. Then you'll go back to, say, your Fidelity, your USA, wherever your money is held, to move the money over. So very conservatively, we say 30 days. It's usually a lot quicker. And let's say in this example, you needed the money in by September 15th, September 17th. We do also have an expedited service.
Awesome. What kind of impact has this personally had on your investments? I'm assuming you have your own.
Yeah, it's been great. And here's why. I know you and I are big on community, and that's part of why, some of our, frankly, what I want to share to the audience actually literally has the word community in. So what I see outside of real estate, what's nice about this is, one is you, unlike, say, a mutual fund or stock, you can invest directly in your community. You can buy that second property. I personally lend to a lot of female entrepreneurs. They're all rock stars. It's great. It's great returns. As my dividends come in, I do a lot of stuff in self-storage in addition to multifamily. As a dividend comes in, I can turn around and maybe take, even if that's a $1,000 or $2,000 dividend, put it in a crowdfunding campaign. It could be a bar restaurant. So, I'm much on the old side. I can't take advantage of those half-price drinks like looking at my colleague in here from UT, and I know he'd take advantage of that in a heartbeat. But, from our standpoint, in all seriousness, the benefit of crowdfunding is small dollars, and with retirement is the in-kind benefits. Maybe you get that room that costs $1,000 to book out for one of your private events, say if you're a realtor or, you're hosting something. And then secondly, also, as I said, it's just the benefit of the checkbook control is just the ease of how quick this is, maybe for folks that have been in this space, for prior decades.
Awesome. What's the biggest pain point that most investors that come to you struggle with, and how do you guys address that?
Yeah, I think the thing is, it goes back to it's kind of, I said, no life insurance collectibles or no self-dealing. I think part of it, so some folks, I think it's more of a frustration thinking like, hey, I can use this money to invest in my company. There's still a ROBS, and we'll tell folks we don't offer a ROBS, but it's a little different. So I think that's part of the one frustration. I think when folks learn of the solo 401k, they're excited. I half joke the Roth IRA is the unsacred account because a Roth IRA can only go into a self-directed Roth IRA, whereas a traditional can kind of, jump back aboard and get into, be transferred into a solo 401k. But yeah, I don't think it's as much a friction or pain point. I mean, plus from a pricing, whether somebody comes to us with $1 million, 100K or 10,000, we're charging a flat $15 a month. And, I half joke here, but God forbid you make a good investment and your 100 goes to 200, other shops are going to almost double your AUM, or they have an AUM to start. We don't have any of that, so if you want to be in 20 crowdfunding or just, one big property, we're still the flat $15 a month.
So one of the biggest things I'm big on is when someone moves from company to company and now that 401k at the previous company is sitting there. Either I have a lot of friends where they don't know exactly what to do with that. Sure. And they don't know that you can move it into accounts like this to, invest on your own. So here's the biggest thing that I see is, and please help me on this one, right? Sure. So they don't know that they can move it into a self-directed IRA and control it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the one pain point. The second pain point is they actually roll it into the new companies, which is probably by far, in my opinion, the worst thing you can do, because the company that offers you a 401k offers you a 401k based on their picks of the stocks. Mm-hmm. That's not really out there for the common person to realize that until they educate themselves on. And the last thing is they don't realize, they don't want to take ownership of actually doing their own investments because it's kind of scary to them. Mm-hmm. So can you just kind of, just talk about those points? Because I feel like those are the three that's really the pain point.
Yeah, I mean, happy to do so, and I'll go in reverse order. I mean, the first is I just call it 20th century marketing. Even though I'm here in Texas, I can go back to my, Catholic school upbringing and everything else. The whole beat down, you do it this way. It just doesn't fly anymore. And I think folks, as I say, the curtains have been pulled back on the Wizard of Oz. And, at the same time, we're not bullying, say, hey, you have $500,000, move it all over. We might say, actually our average account size, you're like this, is $100,000. Boom.
Yes.
I got these out of the bunker, so I hope we're on video here. Pull these out of the bunker. But, what you got to think is most folks are, especially middle-aged a little bit more, it's very reasonable. Like one of your deals, if I'm bullish on, I'm probably going to move 100,000 over. Whereas if this is my first dipping my toe in the water, I still have my 400,000, in, your Fidelity mutual funds. So that's kind of an easy way. You're right. Some of your earlier points, going from company to company, I feel it just hasn't been introduced to, maybe the HR suite or otherwise. We're getting a lot of interest. Austin's a little more progressive to do all hands meetings to talk to folks. Now we're not trying to touch the current 401k plan. We're not playing in that space, but kind of a previous example. It's like, hey folks, you didn't need to bring everything in. And the final point, kind of on the light bulb moment for me, is sitting at some of these shows with real high net worth folks. I think I was on one of the guys from literally the Mayflower, original Pilgrim, coming in, talking to him a few weeks ago. And, what they say is, and they're very open, less than 10% of my stuff is in stocks, bonds, mutual funds. So when you take that into account, what we're now empowering, whether you have 100, I said 1 million, 100, or even 10,000, you can have, as we term it, 21st century diversification. What the wealthy has at least had access to, you at least are now educated, and for a whopping $15 a month, you have this checkbook control to try this out. And there's a lot of stuff out there. So that's, I think, the big difference. And frankly, I still think I think the more folks that are actively involved in their retirement, whether it is a stock bond mutual fund or our world, I think it's still a net win. So I think collectively as the industry, we would want a more thoughtful discussion.
No, I appreciate you, Dan. How can we reach you?
Yeah, so we'd be on the phone another half hour here if I went through my last name. So we'll keep it simple. Dan, D-A-N, there you go, Dan at rocketdollar.com. And as a huge thanks to you, John, and literally the community we're talking, folks that want to move forward with an account, Community First 19, as in the year 2019, Community First 19 for $100 off the Rocket Dollar account.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Community First is the company that I founded, and I co-founded with my partners, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Dan. I think they'd really find a benefit to that. I got to have you back on the show. I got to throw things in the show notes for you, so don't worry, I got you. And appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
PI listeners, I appreciate you for listening. If any of this resonates with you, please subscribe and leave a review. The more you know, the more we grow. Thank you for tuning in. Till next time.